Hey, Nicole. Hey, Angelia, how you been? Girl, I've been good. What about you? Girl, everything's been going good. What's new with you?
Honey, out here trying to be my own boss, and I'm making these money moves.
You know, I've been trying to stay fit and work on my health and my wellness.
All right now. What about the issues us women are facing today and the struggle with these relationships? Oh my gosh.
Girl, that's just too heavy. Let's go hit up the hot spots and happenings.
Girl,
Let's talk.
Woo! Let's talk with Angelia and Nicole. Hey, everybody. Today's guest is Dr. Catrina PULLUM. Come on out. Welcome, Dr. Catrina PULLUM.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you ladies?
We're great. Thank you so much.
So happy. Look, I'm just noticing this whole outfit
Look,
you
here,
have.
she came prepared for
Talk
war.
to us
didn't
about
she?
that. Tell me about
Yes.
this whole look and this style.
So my whole look, anywhere that I go, I'm known for my chucks, and so I wear my chucks. I was wearing them before my injury, but now I really have to wear them a lot. So chucks are my thing. I get them custom made for
Those are
me.
beautiful.
And yes, I love my camo
I
because
love
I
it.
gotta stay ready for warfare and break
I
some
know
chains.
it.
So
Yes.
you know, and
What
then I
does your
have.
shirt say? What does your
It
shirt
says
say?
armed and dangerous, the
Mm.
chain
Read it.
breaker.
The chain
chain
breaker.
breaker.
Yes, so
She
I
said
fear
armed and dangerous.
nothing. I fear nothing and no one but God. That's
Yes.
it.
I know that's right. Well, I
Yes,
love
yes,
your whole
yes.
style. It
Thank
speaks. It
you.
speaks.
Yes.
So tell us about your early childhood before age 9.
My early childhood, I grew up in a place where I was a product of a teen parent, and so back then, you know, grandparents took the oldest grandchild in, and that's what happened in my situation. My great grandmother actually raised me because she was raising my mom at the time.
Okay. Your great grandmother.
Yes.
Okay.
Great one.
Yes.
How
so,
old was she?
my great grandmother at that time probably was about 60,
Okay.
late 50s, going
Okay.
into her 60s. And so she was home alone because, you know, her husband had passed away. And so she took me in. And so growing up with her is where I really got my values, my servitude, all of those things. And she was truly one of those praying grandmothers.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay.
That's always a blessing. That's always a blessing. So what happened around age 9?
So around age 9, like I said, growing up with my grandmother, we would always be in church. And so on Saturdays, we would go, you know, back then they fundraise. You know, probably wouldn't know, but they don't do that
I
in the
know
new
about
age
those,
church.
yeah.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
about it.
and
Selling chicken, baking cakes, cookies,
Yes.
car washes.
So they would do that on Saturdays. And so, of course, there would be some male leadership there, sort of like their protection for the women
Yes.
at the church. And so while they would be cooking, myself and a couple other friends, we would be playing, and then we would get lured. I'll say lured off to like, oh, come in the office. Let me show you something by this male in leadership. And during that time is when my innocence was actually taken. But at age 9, you really don't know what's going on because it started with the hugging, then it started with what I thought was tickling, and then it progressed to more. And so I went through that for a short period of time before my grandmother, I think, realized that something was going on. She never told me what. She just told me that all hugs and tickles are not good tickles.
Right.
And after she said that to me, it never happened
It
again.
registered to you?
It never happened
Then you
again.
say it never happened again. Is it because it registered to you that don't let anyone tickle you, or because you think she said something to the person?
I think she said something to the person because they never bothered
They
me
didn't touch you anymore.
again
protecting you.
after that. And so from there, I mean, I've had instances where I've had like a neighbor that would stand in the window and do inappropriate things. So that still is some type of form of sexual abuse as well. So I went through that up until like the age of 12 or 13.
Yeah, that's indecent exposure.
Yes. And
Absolutely.
so having that taken away from me at that time caused me to begin to, I guess, grow up fastly, to cope in different ways. of, you know, I was an alcoholic by the age of 12, you know, to the point where all my cousins and friends were older than me, so I wanted to do what they did. They would buy the alcohol, and I would sneak it.
Did you find some
in the
enjoyment in
house.
it for a little while?
Yes, I did, just
Girl,
for a little while.
Turn up was at an early age.
Just for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I went through that. I went through, you know, when you have feelings, you looking at, you know, now my kids are 17. I'm still like, you don't need a boyfriend, but at that age, you know, you're just looking for that love, all in the wrong places because you're experiencing feelings, but you can't talk to anybody.
Yeah, you can't even address
You're
them.
confused.
Did you ever tell anyone what was going on when it was happening, or did you just keep it hush hush out of fear, anger, not really knowing?
I kept it hush hush because out of fear, I didn't know what would happen. Because back then it was like whatever happens stays in house.
Absolutely.
You don't talk about it, or if you say something, they're not going to believe you and all of those things. And so my family did not find out about it until 2014.
Wow, the whole entire time from age 9. How old were you then when you told them?
I was grown. I wrote my book. So I was like 39.
Ooh, you kept that all those years. Was it hard to keep that secret to yourself?
It was, because I was built up with so much emotions. Like when I wrote the book is when I healed, because it even played a role in my marriage. But good thing I have, you know, a God-fearing husband that just didn't say, I ain't got time to deal with this crazy broad. Let me, you know, let me leave. But he stayed, and we pressed through it. And so when I did the manuscript, he read it, and he was like, I said, so you're not going to say anything? Because he's very conservative. I'm like, you're not going to want me anymore. And that's what I was afraid about, telling my story. And he was like, I already knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
We just needed you to talk about it so we can get it out. So when the book came out, everybody was receptive. I went back to the church I grew up in. No one asked me questions. They bought the book. They held the book signing for me.
Okay.
So, but when I did the book, I said, God, the only way I would tell my story is not to bash anybody, but it's for other people to be healed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about, empowering other people to walk in their purpose.
Yes.
And I know during this time, yes, I asked questions. God, why did this happen to me?
Yes. How did you deal with that? Did that kind of change your faith, or, you know, your walk in God and in the church? How did you handle that at that age?
It's at that age, of course, you still go to church because you have no choice.
Yes, yes.
You know, because you're young. But when I finished high school, I was like, yes. You know, I don't have to go to church every Sunday. I don't have to do this. I can do what I want to do. But look like that every time something happened, I always ended back up on my knees. I always ended back up, you know, back going to God to see what it is. So it wasn't until I was like 25 when I was faced with some issues of truly going through a grieving process of losing my great-grandmother and just trying to get my life together. Because keep in mind, I still finished high school with honors. I still finished my first round of college with 2 degrees.
Wait, high school with honors?
Look at that. Look at that.
And college with 2 degrees? In the midst of everything you went through. So you're telling
and I
the
had my
audience
first child when I was 17, going into my senior year.
So you're telling the audience today that it's possible to do all things through Christ.
Yes, you can.
That's good.
Because you
That's
did
good.
that.
And that's one of my favorite scriptures is Philippians 4:13.
4:13.
And so what God told me at the age of 25 is that I'm asking, like, why am I going through this? He's like, well, why not you?
Why not you?
Because everything that I went through was a setup for the journey that I was going to walk.
That's exactly it.
And so how can I counsel other people?
If you hadn't walked that journey.
Right.
That's
and
right.
He equipped you for
That's
it. You
right.
came ready because he equipped you for it. So you definitely came.
And you're a testimony.
Yeah.
Your story is a testimony to others to let them know, hey, this is not the end. You can overcome this and be successful with it at the same time.
Yes, because you got to think about it. People that hurt you, guess what? They going on.
You hear me?
You stuck. You depressed. You not moving.
Yeah.
And we come up with all of these excuses. I just had this conversation yesterday. It's easy for us to give up when we're scared than to press through.
Absolutely.
Your biggest story is when you can push through
it.
Everything. And so for about 15 years, I was a forensic investigator turned therapist. So I've always worked in the field of helping women who went through trauma,
Yeah.
of children who went through sexual assault,
Yeah.
and I never knew why. People would ask me, why are you so good at your job and what you do, until I had to actually confront what I had been blocking.
Do you think other people were affected by the same person in the same way that you were?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. In a conversation with one of my friends that I grew up with, it slipped up. She said something and then she took it back.
Really?
And so I
She
didn't
took it
pressure.
back.
Yeah, and I didn't pressure her
Okay.
to talk
She
about
wasn't ready.
it, but I can see the signs of how it has affected her. And so my job as a chain breaker is to, I travel the country motivating people and
Breaking those chains.
yeah, teaching them, no matter what you've been through, domestic violence, teen pregnancy, whatever it is, it's never too late to start.
Yes.
Never.
It's never too late.
So tell us how your past has, affected your future. Just, talk to us about that. Tell our viewers how that has affected everything about where you are now, because you've done well. You've got your own brand and everything going. So just kind of tell us about that.
For me, it's made me a better parent. Not saying, because it truly was a village that raised me. My uncles, my grandparents, all of those, they were very protective. But I learned to be, from that, more open with my kids, where they can come sit and talk to me about anything. My youngest is 11, and he already knows anybody put any, do anything to you.
Yeah.
He'll tell them, my mom works for the FBI. She'll put you in jail.
Yeah.
Those type of things. But I took those things that happened to me as a weakness, and I built it up. So I took my pain and turned it into my purpose.
Yes.
So I went through sexual abuse. So now I'm a national sexual abuse advocate, and I have a partnership with the Boston Attorney General's office, where my eyes and a little snippet of my story travels the country. So right now my eyes are on display in the Boston Convention Center and some other places. So I'm on that campaign to help other young people get through. I'm also doing an event, where I'm working with survivors, and it's closed to the public, but for them to come out and share their story and let me know what it is that you want to do, so we
you
can put you on
shared
that
this.
path.
You shared your story with your children. They know everything that happened to you at age 9 and growing up. How was that? When you talked to them about it, what were their ages when you talked to them about it, and how did they understand you?
My oldest one, because it's 4 of them. So the oldest one, he had just started college, and so when we went through, they actually read the book. And so they didn't know how to say, but they began to understand where the overprotectiveness and everything came from. So are they proud of their mother? Yes. They travel with me when they can, and they actually get involved in the business and help me with everything as well. And then when you first walk into my home, in my hallways, we have like my eyes, because they gifted me with my own picture frame of my eyes with my story. So when they friends come over, they see it as well and just think that it's pretty cool.
And now they can share your story. So tell us, what do you say to young women with similar past?
What I say to them is that don't let your pain take over your livelihood, and that for everything that you feel was disrupted, that get a journal and begin to write, because that is what helped me heal when I began to write. And before you know it, you'll have a book. You'll have a book, or you'll just have a story to tell, because when you speak life and when you speak your story, you are actually helping someone else heal.
What was your process in healing? You said you used, started drinking at a young age to kind of help you cope. So how did you heal? What were your steps in healing?
My steps in healing was that I stopped drinking when I was in college. I had an incident where I thought I was out before the party started, and I was like, okay, God, if you get me through this, I promise I'm not going to do it anymore. And so, like, as of now, if I drink wine, it may be just a little half a glass. My body can't tolerate it. So I was delivered from that. Through that. And one thing that I wish I would have did was actually went to therapy.
Okay.
But I didn't, because I just, I just did it on my own.
Yeah, yeah.
But my recommendation for people is to go to therapy.
Absolutely.
And I love to speak to the mothers of children. When you see a change in your kids, and I also like to speak to outsiders looking in, don't assume because a child is acting out that they're a bad child. You find out what's going on. Take that extra time to find out what's going on, because a lot of times we get told they need to be on medication.
Right.
When I can give you medication, but medication is not the root of the problem.
Right, right.
So when you further
Talk it
investigate
out.
and take that time,
Yeah.
then
I hear so many people, that don't go to therapy for whatever the reasons are. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or stigma. Why did you choose not to go to therapy?
more so of I could do it on my own. First of all, I had to really figure out that it wasn't my fault and that it was okay. And it doesn't matter what people say. So all of those things hindered me from going because I didn't want nobody in my business.
Absolutely. That's the number one reason I think a lot of people don't, and they feel like they can deal with it. They have trust issues already because things that have already happened to it, and so they don't really want to pour out to a stranger, and it's like embarrassment at the same time. So I understand that, but I'm glad that you're telling our audience, hey, it's okay to go to therapy. It is okay to talk and get help, talk it out, whatever you have to do.
Because that's the best healing process.
Yeah.
And then you have to keep those cheerleaders in your
corner.
In your corner.
Yes.
You got to have, even if it's one person that can tell you what you can do.
Okay.
It's not about them. Well, if I was you, I would.
Yeah.
You got to let them go.
Yes.
Okay.
But you keep at least that one person that's going to cheer you on.
Absolutely.
You lifted up during this
That's
process.
right.
Definitely.
That's right.
So we know you've done a lot and you've broken plenty of chains, but we know in the midst of breaking those chains, you had a recent health issue. What was that?
Last year in February, I actually had a brain injury because I was doing too much. It came out of nowhere. But my faith is very strong. And 5 days before that injury, my husband had a health fair at his company that where they gave him all the information he needed to diagnose me. And in that instance, when he came home to show me the information, I was like, okay. This is what I'm saying to myself. Like, okay, I don't need that. But God showed me who he was because I had been asking him, for some things, how to move on some things, and I didn't know. And so 5 days later, I had a brain injury, and my husband got me to the hospital in time enough. He diagnosed me. I had went 24 hours before I went to the hospital because I didn't know what was going on. And my work ethic is that I'm going to push through.
Keep going.
I'm going to keep going. I don't have time to go to the hospital. So for my women and men out there, make sure you take care, you do self-care.
Absolutely.
And so from there, I was like, okay, God, do you not know who I am? I got all of this stuff going on. And so my family thought I was going to lose my mind. But when I came through everything, I was like, where's the psychiatrist?
Okay.
But they had a psychiatrist on my team.
Okay.
Because I'm like, for me to get through this, besides God, I need the psychiatrist so we could talk about
so
this.
you did talk to somebody.
Yes.
Look at that.
How we going to
Change the
process
pattern.
Yes.
this. And what I can say is that it was just all a setup by God.
That's good.
Look
It
at God.
was
Look
not
at God.
the enemy like people said. It was a setup by him because he made sure that my family didn't miss a beat. I didn't miss a beat. And when we don't listen to him, he has his way of getting our attention.
He will get that
our
attention.
attention.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
He will. Well, what is one thing you want to leave? Your story is awesome. Your faith,
you.
I mean, you're just literally just giving me chills about your story and your walk. What is one thing that you want to leave our viewers with? Any
Make
type
sure
of
you look out there and tell everybody in the audience, because we want the audience to know what it is, because they're looking at us. We want you to tell them.
Yeah.
So one thing that I will leave with you is that I'm a person of crazy faith. Everything that I've been through, from abuse to sickness, those things, and just coming from a family of being a second generational entrepreneur, is that you can do anything that you want to do. To that person that's depressed, sitting on your sofa right now, to the audience, like, oh my God, I went through this, so how do I move forward? Contact someone. talk to the therapist. Go home and journal if you're not ready to talk to a therapist, but make sure that you seek some type of help. A lot of times we say finances. Well, guess what? You can go online and get some services for free. So don't always use finances as a way out of not doing anything. And so, you know, take your pain and turn it into your purpose, because if God allowed you to go through the test, He wants you to be a testimony to someone.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you so much. Well, Dr.
Amen.
Katrina Pullum, we appreciate you so
Yes.
much. Wasn't she fabulous?
Let me tell you,
And
everything.
inspiring, yes.
Great energy, all that.
Definitely.
We appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
So much. So how can we follow you? How can our viewers find you? And just so they can know about your good stuff.
Okay, so you can go to my website, www.drinapullum.com. So all my social media is there, all the services that I do is there. You also see my book, Breaking the Chains, From Hurting to Healing. I talk about my process, the steps that I took to go from being hurt to actually healing.
Amen.
Great.
Amen. So you can find us again on letstalkan.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on Let's Talk AN. We enjoyed you so much.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Open floor plan, beautiful, great location. This is just what you wanted, girl.
Isn't that what you want too?
Yeah, but I don't have the best credit score.
Well, honey, neither did I.
True.
But I was still able to buy the house of my dreams.
But knowing how picky you are, you need to build like I did.
I got just the person you need to talk
No,
to.
call my realtor. She gives referrals.
So does mine.
Really?
Yes, really.
Tired of renting? Wanting to build? Looking for the right location? Credit problems? Call Angelia Dunbar Realty.